you are in fact better than, shall I be mine?
Yes. Wow. That really is a Scottish sir.
Okay, hi everyone.
Hello, hello.
I'm Alex Vance, and may I present to you the guest of honor, Fox and Moore. That's hello. You can applaud now. You can applaud. So guys, the panel is called Creativity and Collaboration, and there is really no one in the furry fandom that I can think of that is better equipped to tell us more about the creative and collaborative process. Pretty much everything that you touch winds up involving numerous people, very creative, very inventive, across a wide variety of disciplines. So we thought it might be fun just to discuss the creative process from a variety of angles. I used to be a writer and now a photographer. I understand that you used to be a body artist and a ballet dancer as well. Yeah?
Yeah. That's one subject in my life I don't really talk about much.
No, we're in good company here. Maybe you can even show off your magnificent collection of tattoos.
If we get to the bottom of the bottle.
So guys, this is kind of free form, right? There's no presentation or whatever. So feel free to interrupt us with questions if you have any. Is everybody comfortable?
Yes.
Yeah.
Cool. Then sit up straight because we begin. How do we begin our creative enterprises? Starts with an idea, right? In your case, I'm assuming that you have a concept. So do you start off, when you write a piece of music, do you start off with a theme that you've come up with? Or do you start off from a more emotional point of departure?
From actually going for the song itself, or for actually composing the song.
How does it start for you?
I go on the piano and I tinker about with it. So I find things that I enjoyed. I just record everything I play. And if there's melodies or sequences that I like, I will then go back to that and start building upon it. Pretty much all my compositions involve a piano backbone for everything. Even if it's not going to have the piano in the song, when it's completely finished, the piano is like something that I'm familiar with and I'm used to. And it's kind of like the glue that I use to put everything together.
Because it's your specialty, of course.
Exactly, yeah. That's where I can work it best and get all my ideas from. And then once I've got the piano part down, I can tinker about with it, edit it, and put things on it. And then if I have to do the piano part again, it could be different. But I always put a piano part down just as a general structure of what I want the song to be like.
But when it comes to actually deciding that you want a particular song, so the way you describe it, it sounds like you jam a bit, you find things that you like, and then you expand on those, as opposed to starting off with a story or an emotion or a theme that you want to convey, and then constructing music around that. Is that how your Come Find Me album came about? The album that is coming out pretty soon. That was recorded at Abbey Road.
You got some pictures there.
This is a big deal, guys. Do you know Abbey Road Studios?
Explain.
It has a Steinway piano. It has a big fuck-off orchestra.
Cheesy grin.
Yeah.
Who is this guy?
Who is this?
He looks drunk.
Just drunk.
So can you describe what it was like the first time that you heard the English chamber orchestra playing your music?
Words can struggle to be able to properly describe that. Not only when you hear an orchestra itself, the sound of a live orchestra is beautiful, but when you actually hear the orchestra play your own music, it's really quite surreal. And I think there was a picture in there that kind of has me in that exact moment. Yeah, there it is, yeah. That was the precise moment when I heard that, and it was... I couldn't really talk, and no one was talking, everyone just started going, crying like babies.
So this was a pinnacle of a career in furry music that you've constructed around very constructive collaborations with other artists. Just in this photo we have Coulson in the back there. He's an American singer. Alexander James Adams, you may remember him from a couple of concerts at Rusfurrence. The fiddler and the singer and the storyteller.
Fantastic musician.
Shay here in the front, who was the director of Bitter Lake, for which I understand you also did the soundtrack.
That's correct, yeah.
Bitter Lake film from 2011. So you tend to you tend to attract some very creative, driven, productive people. Is there any kind of secret formula? Is there anything that you put in their drinks to make them like you? Apart from fun? Yeah, do you have an army of spies that helps you locate people that are interesting to work with?
Well, if I told you that, I'd have to kill you afterwards. And everyone else in the room, because then they'll know the secret.
Okay, no,
You
that's
can
fair.
kill me.
Yeah, no, yeah, okay, we're allies. It's Scotland and France thing.
You can kill French. He's killed himself.
Yeah, okay, that's fine. The internet.
The internet?
Yeah, basically.
That's your excuse?
No, well, that's my excuse for everything. It's great, the internet. Anyway, the internet is basically the source of being able to collaborate with people, musicians. If it wasn't for the internet, I would never have met Colson, I would never have met Alexander Adams. If I hadn't posted my music up on sites like for Affinity or SoundCloud or Facebook, then that would never have happened. So it's all about doing the work, not being shy of actually getting out there and actually posting it, and then that's where that's where you draw your attention from. Then that's when you attract people. You know, if people like your stuff, and no matter how good or how bad a working style you do, someone out there will always like your stuff.
Yeah.
Because everyone's different. They all have their kind of moods. They all have their kind of like tastes, and that's pretty much the way how it happens. You get online. You don't be shy about what you can do, and then you'll find that people will come.
And hopefully the right kind of people.
Oh yeah.
You ever find yourself getting approached by people who are really enthusiastic but who are just not good enough for the quality of work that you want to deliver?
Sometimes, yeah. But the way to tell it is that you have to be honest with them. You know, as I think it's going to be suitable for what you're doing at the moment.
Yeah.
That's the key word, the key kind of phrase there, at the moment. And that kind of makes people realise, well, hey, if I can keep working, then I can get to the next level and start pushing myself forward again.
Excellent.
Just a question about your personal experience. I know, like every foreign beginning fandom, you must be unknown of a lot of people. But when you become more and more popular to be one of the best composers in the European furry fandom, are you very surprised about it? You didn't expect that from the furry fandom to be very more popular.
To be honest, I was quite surprised because when I first started sharing my music, I was really shy, and you know, I had like this same kind of problem that a lot of people can have nowadays when they're having anticipation. Oh, should I start sharing my music? Will people like it? And ever since I uploaded that first piece of music, it just kind of exploded from there. And I've been working with some of the most amazing artists and amazing musicians in the fandom and out of the fandom. I've been able to travel the world. I mean, I would never have been able to come to Russia if I hadn't been doing the music stuff that I was doing, and if I hadn't been able to in Germany. So it's absolutely. I mean, when you start off, I mean, you get nervous and you worry about it, and I was exactly the same. But it just shows you, if you can have a bit of self-confidence and a little bit of belief in it. Maybe sometimes give yourself a wee bit of promotion. Say to people what you do. Don't do it in a pushy kind of way, but just say, hey, I would listen to this, and you'll find that things will go up.
No, because I know there are a lot of rumors about it, when it's not my personal thing, but when some people speak about the pop figures, like you, like Kaki, not like just a French.
Just a French guy.
Just a French guy. No, some people think, oh, you're popular because you know the stuff, you know Cheetah, you know a great artist like Tati Daria, like all people. Some a lot of people think, oh, it's just popular because he knows the stuff of EF, for example. But I don't think so. I know, I hear a lot of your songs, a lot of music, you're great, you're an excellent composer. So what a lot of people think about that, sometimes you need to think it's true, but I know it's false about it.
It's just
they're just jealous about that.
Well, the whole popular thing, I mean, it's weird. It's curious. I think the term popular can mean many different things. I mean, you can be popular for good things or popular for bad things. There's never really any kind of middle ground when it comes to that.
Yeah, I know a lot of people don't care, like, for example, Rusfurrence, the first time I see him, they all the people say he's a god of drawing. When I spent some time with him last Rusfurrence, he was such a great guy, such funny, a crazy guy. And he say, oh no, it's not a popular. He don't care about popularity. He just drawing, making fun, and that's all.
Yeah.
I think it's the same for you too.
Yeah, I think generally that happens. You know, whether you want it to or not. I mean, there's nothing really you can do when it comes to people. I think there was a very famous quote, and I can't remember who it was, but it was the only thing worse than being talked about is not being talked about.
Yeah, very good.
Yeah. So it's the price you pay, basically. If you're going to be in that situation, there's nothing you can do to stop it, and the best you can do is be yourself. And if people want to make up rumors, that's fine. When they come and speak to people or meet you face to face, then it's their problem.
Drinking.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Well, the other thing is sort of the clique forming among populars, which I think is kind of weird. As you say, like people who hang out with the staff at Eurofins. I really don't see it as an attempt to like exclude others. But the people, like the staff at Eurofins, the people who run the Pulphead show, great artists who enjoy a lot of popularity and fandom, they are very productive, highly skilled people who are very committed to what they do, and we enjoy the company of other people who are also productive and committed and highly skilled, regardless of their discipline, because it's something that you have in common.
Yeah.
Like you like to hang out with people that you share things with, and the experience of like something as monumental as recording in Abbey Road, that's a massive thing. As soon as I heard that the Fox was going over there, I really, really wanted to contribute to that, because that's ultimately why we're all doing what we do, whether it's music, whether it's writing, art, photography. We love doing it, we want to push it to a higher level, and when somebody puts together an amazing project like Come Find Me, of course you want to help.
Yeah, there was so many people that wanted to be involved with it, so many musicians that I worked with, and it was just impossible to get everyone over there. And naturally, you feel bad. Yeah. You've known them for a long time, and they obviously, like being a musician, going to Abbey Road is kind of like a dream.
Yeah.
But it's just all the more reason to try and go back next time to invite them over then. So it's something to look forward to.
So, when you're in a collaborative project, I've always described it that I really like hierarchy, right? A lot of furry collaborations, so let's all work together, everybody's equal, let's forget about leadership, but that's a terrible idea. It's a recipe generally for failure. Yes, absolutely, everybody should have a say, everybody should work together, but ultimately there has to be someone who takes responsibility, who can make the hard decisions, who can say, okay, it's a good idea, but I don't think it's going to work for this project, so we're going to do something else. Who can take on that, and then if it sucks, it's your fault as the leader.
Exactly.
Take
the fault.
Whereas everybody gets to share the glory. Contributing to something like that, contributing to a project that has a leader in whom you have a lot of confidence, is a wonderful thing. But you must also occasionally find out a situation where a very good collaborator just doesn't deliver all the time. How do you deal with that?
I think there comes a time when you go into a certain workplace or a work situation, there's a point where you have to kind of draw the line between friendship and a job. I mean, I've been in that situation before when I've had to say to people, this isn't working, we're going to have to skip it and try again later. And actually, something like this happened at Abbey Road. I mean, there was one vocal performance that really didn't work the first day, and myself and Simon, we just had a quick chat and said, look, it's not working now. Let's try it again tomorrow. So it wasn't like, oh, this doesn't work, go away. It wasn't anything like that. I said, it's not working at the moment, but we're going to try again. So here's what I want you to do to try and make it better for when you come back and record.
Yeah. And
it worked.
Yeah.
I think it's trying to find that balance between being a friend, but being a professional friend as well, if that makes sense. Because you're not only just giving them advice on a professional level, you're giving it as a friend as well, because you want them to do their best. You know, you want it just as much as they want it.
Definitely. And they want to contribute their best, just exactly as you said. So what about someone who just misses deadlines? I mean, this is, there's a word I like for that, it's called chronoptimism. A chronoptimist is someone who believes that any activity will take a lot less time than it actually will. Does this sound familiar to you guys?
Yes.
Yeah, right? I'll be there in half an hour. I just need to drive up and down to London and then go and slaughter a cow and then I'll just be right over in half an hour. It will totally work. And furries are particularly guilty of this. And that can really endanger deadlines.
Yeah, it really can. I think I've been quite lucky because most of the people I worked with have always been professional, and I try not to deliver deadlines, especially if I'm doing my own stuff, because it feels like it's a joint project. But I do like to say, hey, can I get done by this certain time, because I want to try and revolve it around other things that I'm doing. But no, fortunately, I've never really been in a situation where something's been like ridiculously late that I've had to actually say, look, I'll just get someone else. That's so far, touch wood, never happened.
Yeah, very lucky.
I have another question. Have you, during the registration, have you tried to the people, to the orchestra, to repeat again the composition because you thinking they're missing some notes or some up and down, because you say, oh, is there missing something on it, you need to add, or you need to add an octave, or go up, or go down. Have you ever?
I was very fortunate to be working with a very talented conductor, and he's also got a good ear for hearing such things. And what would happen was the orchestra would play a first take in the studio itself, and we'd listen to it, and then the conductor, his name's Ken, he would come back into the control room, and then we would listen to it together whilst the sheet music was there in front of us. There were several situations where we said, right, let's put these violins an octave up and keep these violins as they are, let's change a couple of notes here and there. And then what Ken would do, he would go back onto the stand in the orchestra and he would basically tell the violins, like, this is what we're going to do. And yeah, they were totally fine with it. When I booked the orchestra, they have basically a solid 3-hour session, so you can do just one song in that 3 hours if you want, doing like a dozen takes. It's just that amount of time you have in 3 hours, and I don't think there was really any situation in the orchestra where there was like loads of takes, was there?
No, it went very briskly.
In fact, there was a couple of mistakes, and quite funny ones as well. I've actually got all the original recordings of this too. One of my songs called I Am Here, there's a very tricky violin section at the end, just a solo violin, and the whole song was fine, and then just this poor violinist was playing the notes up high. And as soon as she hit that note, you just hear her scream, "Bollocks!" And it's on the original recording. It's there, so I might keep that as some outtakes for another time.
Should be so embarrassed.
But yeah, we stopped the orchestra on a couple of occasions, but only after they'd actually finished their take, because they just sounded so awesome. No one wanted to stop in the middle.
You have made the take first, and after you record it again?
Exactly, yeah, we record it again from the top, because you get a better live sound that way if the orchestra do it from there. They get into the kind of the movement and the feeling of the song. Yeah.
It's very powerful at that level of excellence that you're dealing with.
Well, these guys were some of the most amazing, talented musicians I've ever met. You know, they're world-class professionals in a big national orchestra. It was something else, wasn't it?
It was really, really awe-inspiring.
Oh yes, that's not it.
Until...
Just how many people? Just for how many people on this orchestra? Because I see 16.
Oh, how many people? 52, I think it was. Yeah.
52.
52, yeah. Yeah, it's about the size of a large chamber orchestra. Just under 60, which is usually the Philharmonic size. So it's quite big.
It must be a big place. So.
Oh yeah, it's very big. The acoustics there are, I mean, the reverb's like sex, isn't it? It's just
it was
so
gorgeous.
I mean, that shows you the size there, that's like part of it.
But these are the kind of people that you can work with at a higher level. Generally, though, we tend to work with amateurs. I mean, amateurs in the exact sense of the word. People who do it out of love. It's the people that you see on Bird Affinity, the people who share their work on So Furry. and who try to find each other for collaborations.
Mhm.
And I found that the most interesting collaborations tend to be across media, combinations of art and words and music, really get a lot more attention, really engage people a lot more, because it has such a broad appeal.
Yeah, yeah. This is something I've really enjoyed from a collaborative point of view as well, as actually working with artists, like Elector, for example.
Ah, yes.
Do you have that picture there?
I think maybe we can show them
Yeah,
some.
In fact, this picture that we're going to try and show you is the picture of our next collab that we're going to probably be releasing in a week's time, and it's called The Watchdog. And it also features Gaki doing a voice acting part at the start.
Isn't that awesome? Oh, God. Go away. Thank you. Sorry,
It's just what it wants to
yeah, it just wants me to accept the new terms and conditions. So Electra did this for a new song that you've got coming out.
That's right. Yeah.
God, that's brilliant.
And such a great example of the collaborative side as well, because in this song was when you sampled the panel in Puzzle.
That's right. Did anybody go to Confuzzled in May last year in Birmingham, I believe? Well, I ran a voice acting panel there, and as usual, it was really, really crowded. And since I had them there anyway, and since I had my little recording device with me there anyway, I wanted to get everybody warmed up just by doing some shouting and screaming and chanting, because he had a song coming out that was really powerful and it was really, it was very, very dramatic. I really liked the theme of it. So yeah, I realized while standing there that I had a choir at my disposal and I could make them say whatever I wanted. They would just do it. It was great. For free as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that was possibly one of the, well, until Abbey Road, that might have been your the largest number of people that collaborated.
We should have tried to brought them over to Abbey Road as well. Could have done some chanting. Maybe next.
Well, maybe next year. Maybe next year we'll take you people with us.
Yeah. Nice Russian choir. Shivers down your spine.
Oh, I missed that one. Oh, only Russian, okay.
Okay, the Russian and the French.
No.
If you want, yeah.
Yeah? Would anyone like to hear a little sneak preview of the song that's coming out?
Yeah.
Sure.
No.
I don't know. They don't sound very enthusiastic about it. I think they're just being polite.
Yeah.
I think we shouldn't, right?
Sure.
Okay, this is your opportunity to say that you really do want to hear the song.
3, 2, 1.
Yes.
Hey, see, it takes a bit of enthusiasm. Let's do
Just
it.
sink in this chair.
Everybody, like, you got regarded. It's on YouTube.
He wants to listen to it as well so he can hear his voice. It's actually, it's not even barely halfway through the song.
No,
It's quite a long song.
It's a very impressive composition. So how many people worked on that for the audio part?
Not including the choir.
Yeah.
Well, there's myself, there's Ashley, vocals, there's Judas Wolf for the guitar, there's Dolphin Boy for the drums, there's Judas on the bass again, and for the acoustic guitar, there's you.
Yes.
Well, that was close. There was at least 7 or 8 people, not including the choir. If you include Elector, then 8. And I'm pretty sure there was some writing to go with it as well for the submission. I think Kyle's written something. Kyle Gold's written something for it.
Awesome.
So a lot of people. All of them in the fairy fountain as well.
Yeah. All from the people.
The people.
You mean they were performing or were they actually playing the song? Were they performing?
They were performing.
This was from Confine Me, right?
No, this is a single that's separate from Confine Me. This is one that I actually started last year, but I've not been able to finish it until now.
When you compose a song, you have to keep in mind, keep track of every instrument used in the orchestra, right?
Yeah. The sequencer that I use, Cubase helps me with that. It keeps them all separate, and you can see, and it makes it easier to edit them all as well. But how did you actually record the choir? Did you just simply?
Yeah. I put it down like this, and I told everybody to go. You get free reverb as well. There we go.
See, anyone can be a choir.
Question. You guys reside in different countries, right? And not the country of birth. You're from different countries. How many times did you meet in real life, you two?
Oh man, that's a good question.
2011, 12, 13.
Yeah, that's 3 times in Germany. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
Abbey Road.
Abbey Road, yeah. 6 times?
Now.
6 times?
Yeah.
Did I meet any other time out at the convention apart from
Abbey Road.
You can't yet?
Not counting the cons. I mean,
Oh.
when you met for
Means-
projects.
Oh, for projects, just Abbey Road then.
Only at Abbey Road.
Only Abbey Road.
together.
So far,
Yeah.
just one.
So far. But I think that's true of most of the people that you collaborate with.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of the collaborators I worked with I've never met in my life. I just know them online.
It's more easier today because thanks to internet we can communicate with another people from another country.
Exactly, yeah.
I think if we don't have internet, I think we didn't meet and we didn't create this together.
Mhm.
I think.
No, that's very true. It's very true.
This is Lily. Had you met her before the Abbey Road performance?
No, actually. In fact, Lily's a good example of that.
Yeah.
And oof, she did such a good job.
Yeah. Because normally all of the collaborators record their own material and send you the files for you to
Correct, yeah.
integrate into your project. And it can be a little tricky for everybody to get into the right vibe.
It can also be a wee bit of a divide when it comes to recording equipment that people use as well, or the environment in which they record. I mean, not everyone has access to like a sound type room. For example, there's been plenty of situations where Lily sent me her vocal parts and you can actually hear her parrot squawking in the background. It sounded really cute.
Yeah, it's a bit easier when it comes to, for example, comics or writing. It's a bit easier to get standardized file formats out of that. As long as you communicate it well, as long as you communicate beforehand exactly what the specification should be, at least that we can work to that.
Yeah.
And it's also less time sensitive, I suppose, when recording.
Yeah, exactly.
So, when somebody needs to record, for example, a guitar part, or did you have any brass for the song we just played? Anybody playing horns or?
No, there was no live horns on that. The horns that we're using on there were high-end sound libraries that are done by a company called East West or Quantum Leap, and they do really good, realistic sounding.
Yeah, they sound
brass.
excellent. Right, guys, they sound excellent. Yeah. No, apparently not.
No.
Guys, come on, please.
I think I get the impression they're quite shy. You know.
Yeah, I also noticed that they're gradually getting closer. I think maybe they're just hungry.
Or maybe it's just our vision going because we're getting drunk. it just looks as if they're getting close.
Just a little bit, yeah.
So on the subject of collaborations then, I mean, you did a comic called Eden City.
That is correct, Fox. I did indeed.
So how did you go about getting in touch with the artist, or the artists that were involved? Because you've worked with a number of artists
Yeah.
when it came to that comic. I know Kaji did some work, and
Oh,
he's one of my favourite artists. So.
He did a couple of covers, they were absolutely gorgeous. But I wasn't in the same situation that you were. I was not very well known. I'd written a couple of stories, been published a couple of times, and I did some publishing on my own, but comics were entirely new. So I had to go out there and attract attention by smoke and mirrors. I had to give the impression that the project was going to be magnificent and significant and important and grand when there was no project.
Mm-hmm.
And the metaphor that I like to use for it, I think you know the story in Russia as well. We call it stone soup. I think you call it axe soup. Does it sound familiar? You know, a soldier comes into town in the middle of a famine. Axe porridge.
Axe porridge.
And he just brings his cauldron, and there's nothing in it. There's just water in it. He puts his axe in, and he says that he's making axe soup or axe porridge in this case. And everybody's really curious, but he seems to really like the smell of it. And then the baker comes out and asks, "What are you doing?" "Oh, I'm making axe soup." "You know what? This would be even better if you had just a little bit of milk or bread to go with it. So if you give me just a little bit of that, we'll add it to the axe soup and you can have some." And eventually everybody winds up putting something in the pot. And then you actually wind up with a delicious soup or porridge or stew. But only because there was someone at the very beginning who convinced everybody else that it was going to come true. And you have to be a charlatan, you have to be a liar, but you have to also be honestly confident that you can do it, which I did with Eden City. So it was very much like going out on for affinity, finding artists that I like, but not just looking at the quality of their art, also looking at the regularity with which they produce material, checking their productivity, going back in history and seeing if they promised commissions, seeing what their commission queue looked like, whether they deliver on time, because productivity, especially on a large project like a comic, at 30 or 40 artists working on any given issue, like any one of them can hold up the deadline, and there is a rough deadline for publication. Wound up in one situation where the artist was a chronoptimist, and I kept pushing the deadline to let it make it, and then he just didn't deliver. And there was another one that kept failing to meet deadlines. And it's not important whether someone's going to miss a deadline. I mean, we're all in this for the fun, and yes, there's a little bit of money involved, but if you miss a deadline, it's not a big deal, as long as I can anticipate it. And that was the problem. He wouldn't give me any indication that a deadline was in danger.
So it's hard to communicate with them, did they not answer emails?
For example. And that's something, so when you were asking how to select those artists, I try to find out whether they're that kind of person, which is fine, a lot of people are, but if I see that they regularly miss commissions, or they start, a 3-page comic and then it takes a couple of months for the second and third page to come out, those are clues that this is someone that either, I have to give something small to, or perhaps skip entirely.
Sure.
Have you already had this type of person say, oh, I will give you the comic in time, and say, oh, I forgot, or...
Well, nobody's forgotten.
I forgot, just say, oh, I will be late, I will be very late, because this or that.
If people have a reason why it's going to be late, that's totally fine. We can plan around that, I can shorten the section that we need to do, I can give the work to somebody else. But if I only find out that they're going to miss the deadline on the deadline, then there's no time to fix that. And that's really quite troubling. That's the only part of the creative and collaborative process that really makes me unhappy. Have you found yourself in a similar situation at any point?
I've had situations where things have been late or not happened when I expected. I mean, that song, for example, that took far longer than what I thought it was going to be. But you know what? I'm the kind of person that's just keep it there for now because I know it'll get done. I can still do my own different thing whilst I'm waiting for that. Yeah. So whilst that was half done, I was still working on other things. But yeah, it's happened before. But in my experience, I've never really had anyone that's been bad to work with. Sure, you get people that might be a wee bit lazy or makes some excuse, but which is fine. They're not getting, most occasions they don't get paid for it. Yeah. So it's not like you can suddenly say, right, do this, do that. You can't order them about because it's not like you're their boss.
You can't fire them. You can't demand a refund.
No, exactly. And if they come with an excuse saying, I have to go to a funeral or something, that's totally fine. Then they turn around and say, oh, I was just trying to get a new achievement in Bioshock. Then it's not quite the same.
Has that happened?
Not that, no. I've had the impression that maybe it has. I just didn't really know the truth. Oh, there's a coincidence.
I was going to wonder who's the lady we've been looking at.
I'm so sorry.
That's a singer who goes by the name of Lilypad. If you're on for Affinity, it's just Lilypad. Check her out. She's one of the most amazing singers in the furry family.
Wow. Beautiful, beautiful voice. And this is also a singer.
And likewise to him.
Colson, if you're familiar with him, let's see who else we have. Alexander James Adams from the concert. And Maddie. So these were the primary vocalists for
yes. You've got the big spot. You opened up the album.
Yeah.
You're like the opening act.
I just squeaked it in there at the very end.
I know, that was the last thing that was done.
We had literally, 17 minutes left.
No, it wasn't even that. It was like 17 seconds.
Alex, get the fuck down there. Okay. 90 seconds. I think I had the shortest recording in the history of Abbey Road. But it was still quite a privilege.
Yeah. And you did a good job.
Oh, cheers. Nice of you.
Just saying.
Yeah. Thank you for. Did you get that? He said I did a good job. So when it comes out terrible, it's his.
It's my fault.
Do you have any questions from you?
I was just going to ask that. Any questions?
Oh, loads.
Thank you. I'd like to ask two questions actually. First, how did you get into music anyway in the first place? And second, do you think it is possible for an adult like myself to get into music composition maybe if I haven't had any sort of experience in music beforehand?
Okay. When I was 4 years old, I went over to my grandmother's house, and there's a room on the top floor that has this old piano. Every time I went over to my grandmother's house, I would climb up on it. You know, when I was 4, I was starting to walk, and I could just manage to get up, and then I would just start mucking about. You know, when I started music, I had no experience or training whatsoever. In fact, when I was doing music at that age, I had no theory training for years. So I was playing all these notes, I was playing all these chords, and I had no idea what I was doing. Just by ear, yeah. And I think that kind of answers your second question as well, with the fact that, you know, when you start music, you won't have any experience anyway. You know, if you find yourself, you know, sitting there and you press a note, and it's like, oh, and you press more notes, then you're doing it right, basically. You know, there's so many different ways you can learn. I mean, you can go down the avenue of learning how to sight read music, to read it like that, or you can use your ear. It all depends on how you enjoy it. You know, people have different ways, and I enjoy music when I was learning my ear. I don't like to sight read. That's what I do with my ear. But music's something I've always done. You know, it's from as early as I can remember in my life. I was always playing piano. It's just something I enjoyed, and my mum and dad kept having to drag me off to make me eat my dinners in order to keep me alive, basically. When my friends came around wanting to go out and play football, I was just like, no, I'm just going to play piano. But yeah, you know, it's never too late. You don't have to have any experience. Go out and get yourself a second-hand keyboard and plug it in and just have fun. Just explore all the sounds and see what you come up with, and you'll enjoy it.
And honestly, the fact that you're here means you're not an adult, so you have plenty of time to learn.
Exactly.
I am reasonably certain that you are a good piano player, that you can play the piano reasonably, but yet you still can compose for other instruments which you cannot play, for example the violin. You can do that. How does it work? Aren't they kind of different? Don't they work differently? Don't they produce different harmonics?
I guess it just comes down to experience again. I mean, I've got sounds in my library that are quite intelligent, and they will actually tell me what notes a violin can play and what it can't. It knows the instrument's limitations. Technology in the studios nowadays for digital audio recording is very advanced. So, I mean, I'll know, for example, I could go straight into an orchestra and be able to write out a piece for the violin, knowing they'll be able to play that and what they won't be able to play. So it's a case of just learning about the theory and then putting that into a practical application. Although I can't play violin, I can't play oboe, I can't play the French horn, I can't play any of those instruments. I know very well how they work. I know that flute and brass players, they need to be able to breathe during the melodies, and I also need to know that the French horns cannot play high notes quietly. You know, there's all these little tricks and things you learn when you're composing.
That's fascinating.
It basically comes down to composing experience using digital workstations.
Well, we're on the topic of these unexpected surprises. Which instrument surprises you the most? Which has the most range, so to speak?
Oh, you know, there's a few. The piano's got a massive range. Most pianos have 88 keys. You can get larger ones by a company called Bosendorfer. We do 96 key pianos that can go really, really deep, all the way down to near the 20 hertz kind of range. Harps have a high range. The stringing instruments like violin and cellos, they have high range as well. But probably the highest range, I mean, must be piano, Yeah, I would say.
Yeah.
No, I'm just thinking because I'm wondering if you could actually include the theremin.
Yeah,
The theremin can go really
Yeah.
high. I mean, there's no limit there really. So I guess you could say the theremin and the piano.
Last part.
Yeah. And the voice as well. I mean, some people like Freddie Mercury, they had like 5 octaves in their voice.
Do you know that there is an idea that if you want to be pro in playing musical instruments, you have to play on it for 10,000 hours. How many hours have you played on piano?
I don't think he has a chronometer near to him.
Is anyone got a calculator?
I don't think so.
Well, generally speaking, if I take an average day, per day I would probably play on the piano 5 to 6 hours, sometimes 8 hours. So let's say I play piano on average 5 hours a day.
Okay.
For 25 years. This will tell you how many hours I've played piano for. So 5.
So how many days out of the year?
365.
Really? Every day? No,
This is average. This is average.
36.25.
Times 25.
Times 25.
That's how many hours of piano I played. Roughly.
Which is...
Do you agree with this idea about 10,000 hours?
That's 1901 solid days.
I think no.
Yeah,
It's probably a wee bit less than that.
Yeah, no, so you've clocked.
I've played piano for 12 hours some days. So it can really vary.
5,000 hours.
So right about, I'd say 40,000.
Oh, only 40,000.
Yeah, just 40,000. So there you go. Approximately 40,000 hours I've played piano for.
Do you agree with this idea about 10,000 hours? That you must, if you want to be a pro and play musical instrument, you should play.
In some ways yes, and in some ways no. I mean, if you want to be able to get better at what you do, if you want to play the scales or be more proficient in your playing, then yeah, you have to practice. You have to put in a certain amount of hours each time. It can vary from person to person, but to be perfectly honest, when I play the piano, I don't actually do it because I want to practice. I do it because I just enjoy it. And when I'm playing, I kind of like learn everything from that kind of aspect, if that makes sense. Yeah.
Okay, when you record your tracks, do you record it the whole from the start and to the end, or when something fails, you have to do it all over again?
There's been plenty of times where I've had to, when I got near the end, and I had to go all the way back.
Or you can
Smash the keyboard.
record just some parts and then mix them.
Yeah, well, as I said earlier, when I do the compositions, I start off with just the piano as a kind of structure for the song. When I hear the melodies in my head, I will sit on the piano, I'll improvise it out, play the chords, and then that'll go through like the entire song. Normally, I just do that all at once. I don't really do it bit by bit because then I kind of like lose the flow of what I'm doing. Sometimes though, if I'm using different instruments like French horns, I'll go back and do it several times because I know exactly what I want. When I'm actually playing the piano, I'm not hugely certain what I want in that song just yet. It's just to lay down the actual structure. But to answer your question, on the piano, I would play it all the way through.
Wow, even on a 7-minute composition.
Even on a 7-minute composition. I don't have these blisters or nothing, you know.
I used to do the same in voice acting as well. When you're narrating a story, I found that when you flub and you always make a mistake, if you then try to cut in at the exact point where you made a mistake and you record it, getting it to connect properly, getting it to transition properly can be tricky. But I found later on, as I became better at it, that was actually a more productive way to do it, to just spend a little extra time to make sure that edit works well, to save myself having to go back and re-record the whole point, because it's a vocal performance. Your emotions are being subconsciously received by the listener, even when you're trying to be even when you're trying to be sort of level and smooth. You know, you're giving a performance, but you can never conceal completely your emotional state. So if I find myself being frustrated, you know, that I know that there's a tricky part coming up, and I know that, you know, I've made a mistake there 5 times, and I've had to reread the same 5-minute segment 5 times already, and I really don't want to do it again. Then, well, as you get closer to that, you can't help but, you can't hide the sort of fear and frustration in your voice. It's very subtle, but it's there. So I found it more productive just to go through it, and if I flub, I'll take it just a little step back and re-record it from there, because then at least I'm relaxed. And even if the edit isn't perfect, at least my tone and consistency are a lot better and hopefully more pleasing. And it's a shame that we don't have, there used to be a podcast called the Bad Dog Book Club. A couple of friends of mine ran that until it fizzled out. And every other episode, they just have a story reading for a furry story, and then the next episode they discuss it. It was really, really a lot of fun, and I enjoyed contributing to that. Unfortunately, we don't have that anymore.
Why did you record your parts? Were there parrots squeaking in the background?
Actually, that's a good question. Have you ever recorded?
A professional studio.
Oh,
Did
no.
you rent it?
No, just at home. You know, there are planes flying overhead, and then you just stop and you do it again. And there, you know, you don't record while there are children screaming on the street outside or police sirens. It can be tricky.
All at once.
Right? Yes, usually all at once. One because of the other. But modern technology is amazing. For a couple of tenors, for maybe €100, you can have a really, really good sound setup. And as long as you have you pay a bit of attention to your recording environment, make sure that it's nice and damped, make sure that there's no echoes, you can do great. I had a wonderful recording setup in my home office, which was also just a wardrobe because we were so lazy. It was a floor, you know, wardrobe, floordrobe, and then the wardrobe over there. It was wardrobe. Yeah. It was really terrible, but that meant that there were clothes everywhere, right, blocking all of the audio reflections that you normally get in a big room like this. So it was really nicely damped, and I could just sit in front of the microphone and I could speak, and there was no weird echoes. And then I moved all the clothes out of the way in order to make space for a little photo studio with the background and some lights, and suddenly the room just developed this, like you can hear it here as well, a very specific echo for a particular frequency in my voice that I could not get rid of, and it meant that there was a sort of tinny quality. There was a kind of sound to whenever I was speaking.
At least you weren't in that elevator.
No, it wasn't that bad. But so I spent an entire weekend just going around the room, just trying to find a spot where it wouldn't echo so bad. And I found a spot. I found a magic spot. It's a really annoying place. It's right next to the door. But that's where I set up my microphone, because that is the only spot where I speak in this direction. Totally cool.
I'll give that here.
Yeah, I think that's a sign. Yeah, this is for security. Just we don't want to accidentally spill it and fry everyone, so we're going to dispose of the evidence. Thank you. To find a spot where I can actually record, and yeah, so that's where I do my recordings now. I actually recently started using this little baby, because even though it's cheaper than the full size. What's it called, a broadcast microphone that I've got, it is really quite good, and it works very well for my voice, or how I like my voice to sound, which is totally subjective, and sometimes, like, who is it, Bono from the band U2, swears by the Shure, the SM57? SM57, costs $50, right, super cheap. He will sing into nothing else, years and years, and this is a multi-million record-selling artist who really, really likes the sound of a $50 microphone. If it works for you, that's great. Absolutely. Do you have favorite instruments? Don't say the Steinway yet. You should have seen him drooling over that day. Oh, whoa. Here we go.
This was us actually trying to figure out what we were going to do for a song, but I actually went into that studio not knowing exactly.
You can't see it right here, but he has an erection that's this big.
Yeah, I would say the Steinway piano is probably my favourite. I don't really have like a particular favourite kind of brand of instrument, because nowadays they're all pretty good.
Yeah.
I even had like this really old Casio keyboard. It was like this size, and it only had like 30 notes, and you could only play like 4 notes at a time, and the sound was so awesome.
Wow.
It sounds like a Game Boy.
Old school.
Mm-hmm.
How are we doing for time, by the way? I haven't been paying attention.
You've got almost an hour left.
Oh my god.
Should we start? We need to play charades.
Yeah. Who wants, I don't know, who's got a deck of cards?
Cards Against Humanity.
Cards Against Humanity, that's a terrible idea. Any more questions from the audience? Okay, we've been enjoying them for too long.
People ignore the French.
I thought maybe we could
In French, no. A lot of compositions are classical, rock, classical. But have you ever tried something like jazz or more rhythmic or more electronic? Have you ever tried this?
Yeah, I've tried jazz. I've tried several forms of jazz. I mean, I actually play in a small jazz duet with a good friend of mine. We do a lot of.
But you have never recorded about it?
Yeah. In fact, there is that. This is shameless promotion now, but there is that a limited edition jazz CD that I've got in the dealer's den just now. I don't know how many is left. That's not quite a few of them.
Yeah.
So, but there might be some. They actually have a selection of the jazz songs that myself and the singer actually perform. Jazz is great fun, especially on the piano, because you can make a mistake and you can just say, "Hey, it's jazz."
And for electronic one?
I have actually dabbled in a wee bit of dubstep. Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Musician.
I have. No,
It's the sterling of piano.
No, don't knock it. There are some really cool things in
No.
Like this.
If you know that Lindsay Sterling is a great composer and musician, violin. So we can mix classical instrument with
Oh, you can.
high-tech music. So
It can be very versatile. It's actually quite surprisingly tricky as well, trying to get that kind of rhythm, because the rhythm in a dubstep drum kit, for example, is always just slightly off, and then it pushes forward. If you ever listen to a dubstep rhythm, it's just slightly off, but that's what gives it that kind of like extra kind of power. And the amount of fun that you can have with the keyboards and synthesizers, making all the wop 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 meow and stuff. It's great fun.
I still think it's anti-music.
I don't know.
It's just noise, it makes no sense. I guess I'm just a great Yeah, exactly, that's what they all sound like.
I need to listen to some good dubstep then.
Alright, I'll get an education.
Yeah. Any more?
You have taste.
Can you sing? So you have an ear for an affinity for the piano. Does the ability to sing come along with that?
I can sing reasonably okay. I know when I'm off key and on key. I'll probably actually sing at a concert when I do it tomorrow. I've got a few things planned.
You can do it. A try here.
he can sing.
Oh, sing us a song in the piano fast. Oh, sing us a song tonight. We're all in the mood for a melody, and you got us feeling alright. Kind of. I've had too much booze.
I remember one time, 2 years ago, when you played June from the Beatles at piano, where everybody...
Oh, Hey Jude, yeah. But I think here we need to do a couple of the Beatles songs, like back in the USSR.
I think so.
Oh, yeah. Yes, I've been actually starting to sing more and more often now, because at first I was really shy about it, but the more I do it, I find that I actually quite enjoy it. It's a lot of fun.
Okay.
All collaboration work start with one-man initiative, yes?
Usually just myself, yeah, I start.
How is it continuous? Is it only your initiative after that, or it's just like everyone tries to contribute as much as they can?
I think when I'm actually creating the composition, when I've got the original piano part down, I start getting ideas of what would actually sound good in this. For example, when I did Watchdog, I thought, right, okay, a nice heavy electric guitar is going to sound good with this rhythm I've got here. So then I would just simply contact the guitar, send him the parts, send him the chords, and ask him to actually do a take with that, with the backing that I actually send him. So normally it's just a case of me performing the part out, and then listening and deciding what I actually want. And then I will contact everyone on an individual basis for them to do their parts and send it back to me to put into the mix.
Have you ever been in a self-organizing group that just like gathering and deciding to we want to create some musical
Like a jam session? Or, yeah, I mean, isn't there a jam session tonight?
I think so.
Yes. Yeah, okay. Because that's probably what will happen there. We'll just come in, everyone with all their different ideas, and we'll just like try and pick the ideas that work the best and try and put them together and see what happens. I've never worked that way with my songs personally because I try and go with something with what I actually want, what I think will sound good. You know, I'll contact the person separately and do it that way. But for jam sessions, yeah, it's pretty much like that. Everyone will just get together, take their instrument or sing, and then see what happens. See what the output is.
Jam sessions are just like one night event, and how about the more prolonged ones? Like performances, maybe when you're working on a CD or maybe a soundtrack for the movie, you want something more.
Oh, something that
bigger,
something that's more than just a single song. I've never even considered doing that before. No. I don't know how well it would work. For example, for a film, you know, when you're doing music to a film, it's usually got to be a specific thing, so you have to like write it out. It can be quite complex. However, you could actually just get the camera crew to improvise as well, and then you never know. I mean, I'm sure there's a name for that kind of. It's not contemporary, but it's
cinema verite, perhaps.
Yeah, he's the Frenchman. He'll know. I mean, all the French words.
I don't know. To my shame, I actually did study film studies, and I don't know what you're talking about. But it doesn't seem like it would be a good way to do a high stakes project, because you can just jam and see what happens, and it can be loads of fun.
Yeah.
Brilliant, but like
supposing the way it's just like gambling. You know,
yeah.
With a good chance that nothing that you might like would come from it.
And there's another aspect when the collaboration is too democratic, then people are not willing to deny each other bad ideas. If somebody else has an idea that you just don't agree with at all, and you're doing a sort of democratic committee-based collaborative project, then you can't really tell them no. Right? That's why hierarchy is so important. You can just say no, and of course you're not an asshole about it. You just say, you know, it doesn't work it's not what I had in mind, it doesn't work for this project, as far as I'm concerned, purely subjective. And then the product that you wind up with is at least closer to what you had in mind. There's a vision behind it. Because you can be in a situation where everybody recognizes that something is just bad, but nobody wants to be an asshole about it.
Tell them that.
Yeah. And then you leave it in, and the product winds up not being as good, and then nobody's as proud of it as they could have been.
Yeah. Sometimes you just got to be honest.
Yeah.
You know, you've got to cross the line.
Yeah.
Make your opinion recognised, because it's far better to do that there than after the product, because that's when the problems really start.
Because everybody wants to do a good job in the end. Yeah. So that was in relation to your question. I can't really imagine for a larger project like an album, like a comic, for it to work democratically, people just jamming together and sharing their ideas. That's a great way to start, as long as it's in a controlled fashion. But someone has to maintain leadership.
Yeah. But speaking from like an artistic point of view, it could actually be interesting. Like you just pick up colours and just splash it on the paper and see what happens.
Work for Jackson Pollock.
Yes.
When you work with your project, and when you see when it's enough, when you completely satisfied and you say it's good enough, and we call it ending.
Do you mean like how do I know when to stop? Like,
yeah.
Okay.
How do you stop, Fox?
You're asking a Fox that.
Why do we stop?
That's one question a Fox cannot answer. Just leave it to nature.
How does the fox stop?
How does the fox stop?
When do the fox stop?
No, cats.
Anyway, I guess it's just a case of like, when I listen back to it and I think, yeah, okay, I like what I'm hearing and it sounds good to me. Sometimes I'll send it to a sound engineer or a couple of other beta listeners, as I call them, just to, you know, it's good to get third opinions on. You know, I mean, I've done that with you actually.
Yeah.
I've sent you some stuff to get a second or third listen to. It's simply a case of listening to it back yourself and just making that personal decision when you're ready to just put the stamp on it and finish it.
And move on to the next one.
Exactly.
Because you could go on and on and on and
Oh, yeah.
continue to improve. It could,
But then it comes to the point you can put too much into it as well.
Yep.
Where it doesn't become the song that it needs to be. Yes?
How many your creations, your songs, many projects went to the treasury? You're just like doing it for weeks, for months, and then after.
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
he's asking how many times have you actually had to trash a project because it just wasn't working?
No,
That's an awfully intimate and personal question.
I've never ever trashed a project. There has been situations though where I just don't like where it's going, so I just stop. I don't delete it or anything. The project's still there because sometimes, like a year later, I'll be looking through like my old project files and think, oh, what was this again? And I listen to it, and then I get like a kind of fresh perspective on it after doing different things. And sometimes, and there has been a couple of occasions where I've taken like. I listened to some of my older stuff that I never originally released, and then a year later listened to it and built upon it and then released it, and it turns out to be one of my most popular songs.
Recycle.
Exactly, yeah. In fact, come find me, that was never released.
Nope.
And it was never properly finished, it was just sitting there, because, I don't know, maybe part of me just didn't like it, but when I came back to it, I just suddenly had all these new ideas and then put them on it, and oof, it worked.
It came together.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I remember it was last year when May that you were putting it for the first time. It just disappeared.
Oh no, what's happening?
Oh no!
He's come to take our booze. No,
Andre, no! It's not for you. For goodness sake, he is everywhere. Some should be done about.
How do you know we were here?
Has the sheriff been notified?
It's okay.
He's up to no good. Yeah, hiya. I'm sorry. Ooh, yeah.
Nice rum.
Okay, let's cram. Or sit down. You're perfectly welcome to join actually. Yeah. The official mascot of Rusfurrence.
Oh. He's taking my wallet, hang on.
Somebody's having too much fun. You little scoundrel. Why won't you focus? How do you focus in the dark? Yeah, the flashing doesn't help. Okay, you there we go. All of them were terrible. That's okay.
He's not gone yet.
No? Okay. No, I literally don't have any money for you. I don't have any treats. I'm so sorry. Go rob a bank. Isn't that what you do?
Go to the bar.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Go to the bar, then rob the bank.
Oh,
That usually works well.
good combo.
They're not my beer. Not my beer.
Oh no. Oh no. Do you have any? What's it in?
Take his laptop.
No! Take his phone. I don't care. Take him.
No. No, not again. Not again.
Getting Fox now. What does he actually want? I don't. Okay. Are you just looking for trash? Is that what this is? So judgmental. Okay. See you, Marty.
See you again.
Bye. Bye, Marty.
A lovable rascal.
It's because he didn't get your laptop.
Yeah.
Tell me, that's what was happening.
Wow, you are such a traitor.
Yeah.
I thought you were
He's a fox. What do you expect?
Expect better. Anyway,
You forgive me.
I do.
Okay. That means I can do it again.
Okay, so you've just witnessed a mini drama. There we go. This will be complete.
It's great because it's like taking away a bit of time as well. Now it's only 50 minutes.
Yeah, I know. So I thought we'd have more material. I thought you guys would have more questions. Yes, I know. I did see you. Go
I
on.
have a lot of more questions.
One more.
One more? Only one more?
Well, no.
Okay. Does the file of the unfinished projects growing or is shrinking up? Or what is the dynamic of the growth?
Could you elaborate a bit?
The pile of unfinished projects.
Mm-hmm.
Does it grow or does it shrink?
What do you mean? How many projects? It varies. Right now, I've probably got 3 or 4 that I've not really touched for various reasons. Maybe I went to travel somewhere, or maybe I just didn't like the way it was going and started something else. The pile's never been really that big. I would say the only time it really grows is when I don't actually get the proper ideas of the way I want it to sound, because normally if I know I'm going to be going somewhere, I won't even start a new project in the first place.
Yeah.
Like when I knew I was coming here, I would have started a new, because then I don't like leaving a project if I'm enjoying it and losing the flow, so to speak.
You do an awful lot of traveling,
Yeah.
especially this last year or two.
When I come back from here, I'm home for 3 days, and then I go all over the USA after that. So I'm going from like the extreme east to the extreme west. So from Russia to Texas, and China hopefully as well, next year. And I'll be back out in Australia this year. So.
Jesus.
So it's a lot. Travel focus.
Yeah. Get an extra passport.
You will
for
be
all those
touring,
things.
right?
I'm running out of space on it.
Really?
Well, thanks to the Russians, they took like a whole space on my passport.
Yeah. The Russian visa requires a...
But it's been worth it.
Oh, it's been smashing.
And it's only the 2nd day. Or the 3rd day, depending when we're here. Any more questions? How did I know you were going to figure
Can you just write them down on a list and we'll go through them?
No, sorry. Have you ever been a part of other projects? Other people projects?
Yeah, I've been part of several projects actually. I did some work for Ruckus a couple of years ago to do some soundtrack work for her
Atlantic
Cruelty.
Cruelty,
Yeah.
yes.
I also did some work with another singer called Colson. I was actually privy to a lot of his piano stuff on his album. I've done various things for Alexa Fenster. I've done a lot of work for her upcoming comic Mira. I've done quite a few things that aren't involved in my own work. I mean, normally when I work with someone, I usually it's either if it's a musician, I'm just providing maybe piano and orchestra parts because I've got quite good studio setup to get those sort of things. But with Alexa or Ruckus, it's usually just writing full songs for their project, and they'll probably do like something for me in return, like a trade.
What's the joyful experience?
Not yet, no. I've never had a bad experience when it comes to trades. And normally, although I'll do a little bit of research when I get asked, or if I want to ask someone, I'll get a couple of impressions, and then I'll make the choice there. So, fortunately, so far, touch wood, I've never had any kind of bad experience with working with other trades anyway.
All good? Yeah, I'm looking at you, like, where's the rest of your list?
Yeah. You're going to run out of hands soon. It's going to get sore hands.
I'm thinking power that everyone could ask their questions.
Well, in that case, thank you all very much for coming.
And we'll see you on the bar.
Yeah, on the bar. Oh, and don't forget the concert tomorrow, piano concert. We're all going to be there?
Yeah.
Yes. Excellent, see you there. Okay, guys.
And also as well, if you want any of the CDs, there are still some in the dealer's den. There's a limited amount of those, so I suggest you be quick. I think Bosey knows how many is left.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.